life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey DIY ass kickers, welcome back to the Roadshow. Today continues our podcast interviews with the authors of Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 2, Powerful Women, Real Stories. I'm really excited to be talking today with Lisa Eddy, whose chapter will definitely change someone's life. Lisa Eddy is the founder of the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle podcast and an expert in holistic skincare. She is committed to helping women regain and retain their true power and beauty, both inside and out, so they can shine on and off camera. Don't forget to check the show notes for how to connect with Lisa. So welcome to the Roadshow, Lisa.
Good morning, Dianna. Thank you for having me. Such an honor and pleasure to have worked with you in this way and to be here with you now.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice. I'm really happy that you're here. You know, your chapter was really impactful in reading. I mean, and you know from reading as well that they're all amazing, but there are some that kind of bring up different feelings. I know for me as I read them, and yours, as you know, was definitely impactful. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being that vulnerable to be open to letting other people read it and know your story. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, it is important. We don't go through hell for no reason. We have an opportunity to comb through those nuggets for not only a deeper healing and awakening, because that's how the light gets in, is through those cracks, right? Mm-hmm. And an opportunity to help others heal and rise. Yeah. I really believe that most great impactful leaders, Maya Angelou, just to name one off the top of the head, off my top of my head, she went through hell, if you follow her story, not just having been raped as a child and, didn't speak for years. There were many more things where she was almost killed by a boyfriend later in life that was beating her and had kept her captive. And look at the impact and the light and the wisdom that poured through and out of that woman.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
You picked a good example for that. Yeah.
She just dropped in.
Yeah. It's, and you're right. And you also know, and I think the listeners do too, that's what these books are here for, to offer the chance for healing for the women that are writing the stories. And I truly have been blown away by the impact that has had on women who even have been writing for a long time. It really was a surprise to me. But also that other piece that, just that little tidbit that somebody needs to hear to think that they can do the same thing. That's so incredibly powerful. Yeah. So tell me, aside from those things that are so important, what drew you to the project and your particular story?
It's interesting. As you know, I know one of the other authors, Katie Phelan, and I are connected. And she was telling me that she was telling her story. And I have known for some time that I'd write a book, and that's coming. There's a couple other books in me. And I'm so blessed to find, because you're such a great teacher and really held my hand in the process. I'm good. I've been good one-on-one. I've been in the treatment room working individually, I want to say kind of like a therapist, someone that, how when you get your hair done, you reveal stories, or your esthetician is different than massage, where some people are passed out. Like with skincare, not many people touch your face. I've been an esthetician for 25 years. So it's a deeply intimate relationship. Only often your lover or your mother might touch your face, right? Mm-hmm. When the client is sitting in front of me, think about it. My heart chakra is lined up with their crown chakra, right? Mm-hmm. It's such a deep connection that we have. And you're not laying down. I brought up massage as the comparison, because when you're in a massage, often half the time you're face down, you're in a deeper relaxation state where you're up and sometimes chatting during a facial. So I've had deep, deep bondings with women and heard so many stories and shared so many stories. So I'm very accustomed to sharing deeply, intimately, one-on-one with many women. So it was a quite a difference to come out and tell it this way. And I'm getting better and better at speaking and coming out in this way, and have known that that's been a mission and an imprint on my heart for years now. In fact, I took COVID and just pivoted, like, oh, I'm running towards my dreams, close San Francisco skincare studio. I am coming out, you know. And so this, when Katie told me what she was doing and telling her story, I was like, wait, is there room for more? I want to do that, was kind of how that had transpired. Yeah. And I knew when I had that experience that in the book, and I mean, I've had so many intense experiences, when I had the story I tell, you know, even like putting a boyfriend in jail who got violent with me, I knew right after that happened, as I was like, okay, I'm breaking the family lineage chains. I knew that right away that I was doing a healing. You know, when we heal ourselves and break the chain, we heal 7 lineages back and 7 forward, like spiritually. It's a deep healing for women and for our culture and for our families. And then I was like, I now know there's more. And, you know, you ask the question and the answer comes. So then a couple of weeks after that, this had happened, I mean, it was so traumatic. I was, you know, just sitting and basking in what had transpired and my gifts and my lessons. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is so that I can help other women who have gone through this, so that I can look them in the eyes and say, I get it. You got this. I've got you. It's very different when someone can look you in the eyes and really have the deep understanding and the compassion that comes from going through hell or back, whether it's the same experience or not. And in particular, in this instance, knowing that when women have to make hard choices, like calling the authorities on someone that you love, that's a big deal. Sometimes it's a parent, sometimes it's a lover. That domestic violence is so terrifying and dangerous because it happens at home behind closed doors with the people that we love and trust the most. Yeah. So it's a hard decision to make. And I knew that going through this was for me to stand up, share my story to help other women make these important, tough choices.
Right. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Had to exhale.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Big one. Big one. Yeah. So I just want to pull some of that together if I can, because I know that when we first met and you told me that you were is that a skin and beauty expert? Do I have that right?
Yes. An esthetician is the skincare part.
Yes. But there's so much more, you know, and you alluded to it, right? There's so much more for you. And I have to be really honest. So, and you know this about me, that my work is about supporting women to be aligned to themselves. And I know there are, you know, I encourage them to be aligned to every single piece of themselves. But I'll be completely honest that, you know, the actual, the outer beauty was not something that I had paid a lot of attention to. You know, I mean, I'd like to do my own thing, but I really hadn't. And it made me think about that connection. That is a piece of us. There are so many parts of us, but that is a really important piece too. So yeah, I guess what I took from what you said is that you created, you had that relationship with women, and your intention is to support them and to strengthen their resolve, right? I mean, in whatever way. And you did that in the way that you did through your work, taking you all the way to be able to share that story that is hugely impactful, hugely.
It's interesting to hear you say that you hadn't given that much thought. You know, I do hear that sometimes, especially when you're like naturally beautiful, or it's just not on you have, you know, there's so much to us. We're such complex beings, right? And some people are attracted to this piece. And there is a level of self-care and self-love in honoring your temple and nurturing your temple and skincare. And I think this is finally being talked about, which I've been teaching this for years, and then finally changed my title to soul and skin mentor, because it's so much more. It's beyond skin deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
You radiate when you're really in self-love and you're really letting all of you shine through your skin. That's a level of beauty that is unparalleled and incredibly unique. Right. And it is the combination of the inner and outer, like nurturing and that self-care and that touch, is soothing and loving. And if we don't love ourselves the most, who will? So there's that, if we don't know how to listen and put our needs first. And so skincare really, I teach, is a portal. Skincare, self-care is a portal to soul care. It's and self-care is self-love.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it seems to go, well, it feels like that portal, really goes both ways, because, my envisioning what you said, my thought was about how when we are fully connected to every part of ourselves, we are different, and we are beautiful. I mean, we're always beautiful, but we are beautiful in a different way. And I think it's the peace and the calm of that alignment, right? So to then understand, as you said, that, the touch and the care and the love then that we give ourselves supports all that. I think that's awesome. Yeah, really cool.
I did a post on my Instagram last night about just that. Like, when we're owning all of who we really are, that's how we really shine.
Yeah.
That's when we are the most, if you look at the really spiritual people, I feel like they are the most beautiful. They're deeply connected.
Yeah.
It's like source running through you, right?
Yes, I think that's true. Well, I think about that, but I also think about the peace, like if we are truly at peace, then, it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
It does.
Agreed.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about your chapter. Yeah. And why that, well, you talked a bit already about kind of why your message was important, but yeah, tell us a bit about your chapter.
So the little girl who couldn't and the woman who did, chapter 14. And I share a parallel of being a young girl who attempted using my voice and who got squashed for it. And then, coming full circle to a grown woman who was then protecting myself and ultimately my daughter, by having to stand up for myself. One thing I was reflecting on as I was popping on this call with you is how being a light being an intuit, being, a healer, when you shine brightly, it can bring up stuff for other people who are not ready to look at their own shadow stuff, because you're illuminating, the light illuminates the darkness. So I've often had the experience, same with my father and in partnerships, of my partners wanting to, like, it's like the attraction to the light and wanting to squash it simultaneously, like wanting it and wanting to squash it, because it makes them feel things and see things that they didn't want to see. So I've often been made wrong for that light, and I had owned it. I realized that I had owned the blanket, the shadow that someone else put on me or making me wrong. Like my father had to reject me because he was rejecting parts of himself. Ooh, when we are not fully in alignment, not fully owning all of who we really are, we can't allow other people to be themselves as well, right? Around us.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, so true. So true. Yeah.
So I had that experience many, many times in partnership where I did not let myself shine as brightly, or dimmed my light, or, thought that what other people said about me were true because, it was somebody who was supposed to know better, like my father. Right. What else do you want to know? I just, that piece came through. So, but pull something else out of me.
Well, so I love the idea of illuminating someone else's space, and then, giving them that opportunity to look at, whatever they need to for themselves. And I did another podcast this morning with some authors, and this came up as well, that, even how we respond to people that we need to speak up to or use our voice or express who we are with, is always that much more effective and feels better if we do that based on how we want to do that as well, right? So it really, I guess I just want to clarify that when we illuminate, we're illuminating and providing that light, but whatever people do with it is what they do with it.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think that is a big part of the message that my work, my life experience has taught me, is that, when you do shine brightly, there's also that piece of not taking things personal, letting everybody be where they are, and being confident, and also protecting yourself when you need to protect yourself, and speaking up, your truth, regardless of whether that is someone else's truth or not.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of full confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Yeah. Awesome. And you know what, your chapter was we've talked about this before, you were very specific about understanding in your, the relationship that you described, understanding why you responded the way that you did, and why you needed to really stand up for yourself when you did as well, which I think was really an interesting piece for me to read, because one of the things that is so important as we understand our experiences is to be able to relate to them and let them give us that awareness that we need in order to make shifts that we require. And that's pretty much what you did, right? You in that moment, maybe you can fill in the blanks. In that moment when you finally said, not happening, what was the awareness you were feeling then?
Well, and I think part of that is because I do the hard work, and I have done the hard work on myself for years. I self-reflect. I listen. I've done all the therapies. I'm not just, not that it's just an esthetician, but even in my work, I am an energy healer and a breathwork coach. And, I have many different modalities that I've studied and trained in to help self and people heal. So that I was able then, like at that point, I knew. And honestly, so my daughter was in the other room when my boyfriend got violent with me. And this was not something that had happened, though there were many signs leading up to, and many red flags that somebody else probably would have seen. But when you come from an abusive family, it's freaking normal. It's normalized. There's not an alarm that goes off like there would for somebody else. You have to like train yourself just to see those. And it's people often say like, oh, it's like an energy thing, like you attract that. And it's not annoying. It used to annoy me because there's like there's a miss there. I'm like, no, it's in my DNA. Like you can't even explain it. It runs so deep. So I know I'm jumping around a little bit.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Bring myself. I know that's how I talk and think. I'm trying to bring myself back there, because in that moment, what I think was really important to me was, I always say that my daughter makes me be healthier. I've made healthier choices for myself because I want to protect her, don't want her to go through what I've been through. Ultimately, we should be putting ourselves first. And then sometimes our children can teach us that, right? Right? So in that moment, I was like, oh no, we're not going to have a repeat. I am not going to let my daughter go through the hell that I have been through. I am not going to compromise her safety or her well-being. Absolutely not. I'm not standing for that. It was a clear, also physical abuse. And mind you, this had not gotten to that point. Like I said, there were flags that I had missed, but it had not been physical. Physical abuse is very clear to me. I had a very clear line of delineation, or a mark of like in the sand, you touch me, you're out. Like that is like, that's like cheating for me. I have zero tolerance. Right. And like I said, I hadn't had that experience before. Emotional abuse is the problem that is so hard to, it's an insidious, slow, often even a very romantic glorified walk-in, especially with narcissists, which was my experience, my specialty. I've dated all of them, so nobody else has to. I've worked it all out. I'm writing that book, okay?
Just take that right off. I liked how you described it as, as being romanticized. It is, oh, this person, wants me to do this. I want to please them. I want to look this way or behave this way, or, do what makes them happy. It's kind of a walk into, I don't know what. It's just a walk in, it's, yeah. So I like that you described it that way, because I think that's why it's so hidden. It's, we're bringing, as you wrote about, we're bringing our history with us. And if our history says that, this is the way life is supposed to be, and someone comes and begins to treat you in that way, yeah, normalized.
Totally. And so it's really hard. And even for people, I have spoken with so many women deeply about really real conversations. I know several women, strong, powerful, confident, beautiful women that have ended up in emotionally abusive relationships, because I think part of it also is that we're taught to work hard for things and the drive, right? And so we shouldn't have to work hard for love. There's that. Like, there's a commitment that we and a desire to serve and please self and others in a really healthy, loving way that is very normal, right? And when you're being met and all that. But I think there's some confusion with powerful women that we work hard and you're willing to do whatever it takes. And, and so there's this piece, but there is also a part where narcissists definitely do feed on really bright, beautiful women. And there is a lot of compliment. It's I guess I would say narcissism, depending on the condition, how extreme it is almost a mental health disorder in a way, like, right? There's a lot. Yeah. And so there's a whole system that they pump you up before they squash it. Right. And that's where it's really, really confusing. So it's such a mind. I'm at a loss for words.
It's a game. And yes, I can picture, it's just does one of these in your brain. Just keeps going and going and going.
So I've seen so many women that not like me, that have come from it, that are real, that had never had that experience, and then found themselves in a very emotionally abusive relationship and didn't know how the hell they got there or how the hell to get out. Yeah.
So your story about how you ended that piece, I think that's why it's so powerful, because you have expressed your experience, which is, I think, one way that we really learn and connect as sisters. Now, when we hear someone's story, when we hear their experiences and how they shifted for themselves, that's the piece that I love the most about these chapters, all of them, that there is that element, there is that time when everybody said, I'm done, and how that, how they got to that place and what they did to make those shifts, so incredibly powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think too, the other thing that is coming to me is that, I certainly don't want to downplay the physical part of abuse, because, all of it, physical, mental, emotional, it's all, abuse. It's all serious. Yes, it's all abuse. And there are times, I would never, ever suggest to someone being physically abused that they just stand up to the perpetrator. Or yes, that, I wouldn't do that. I don't think that that's appropriate. I don't think that that's safe. But to recognize that it's all part of the same, it's the word that I'm thinking of. It's all part of the same pressure. It's all part of the way that we learn to respond. So yeah, so I don't want to downplay the physical part, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't want anybody to walk away thinking, oh, well, all I have to do is, stand up for myself, reach out, get help, get support.
Yes. Well, so the number one cause of death for women worldwide is still death at the hands of their partner. So yes, it's dangerous. It can be life-threatening, right? And so you do have to be very careful there. And that's why there are these incredible organizations, around the globe, that I love that that you chose to work with La Casa de las Madres in San Francisco to donate a quarter of the proceeds from this book, because they have saved so many lives. It's a safe haven for women and children. I created a t-shirt that I give proceeds to, and it's called, I'll send you a link because you'll probably like it. Love is the sacred medicine.
Yeah.
And I started donating my time, although, then we hit COVID. But I think that, it can be incredibly, it can't be taken lightly. Like, we have to be really careful, and we have to have numbers, and we have to see if there's somebody that we know, if someone close to us, if it looks like they're in an unhealthy relationship, maybe somehow, inquiring when they're on their own and asking some of the tough questions and not turning a blind eye to things. Because what we do know about any type of abuse, it only escalates when left unchecked. And that is, in fact, what had happened with me in my story, where the boyfriend had threatened me, and I was letting him live out his stay. Oh, he's visiting from Italy. He's going to be leaving soon. I'll just end it then. I'm just going to let it play out. No, if there is a threat to your safety, get out, squash it, get the help, call the authorities, take those action steps immediately, because it only escalates if unchecked. We know this. Just like fights in a relationship get worse, even if it's just a fight, right? But if there's violence involved, or someone's threatening you or grabbing your wrist, or, I've had many, when I've shared this story, I remember someone saying oh, well, she named her boyfriend at the time. Well, he did that when he was drunk. And I was like, well, that's not appropriate. But, she was just writing it off to, as was this gentleman, irrelevant.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. None of it is okay. Not one piece of it. We
Right.
are, I think we are sovereign, beings, and, hands-on are invited.
They're not.
That's my take. They're invited.
Yeah. And I think it's important that we're finally telling these stories. And part of it, you were saying something earlier, and I think part of it is the toxic masculinity. I mean, we're definitely experiencing a big awakening and shift on planet Earth. Thank God and Goddess that we're finally coming into alignment, but we're seeing it's the darkest time before the light, right? There is a shift that's happening, and I'm seeing such a sweet balance in our men. There's a lot of the divine feminine coming through in a balance. And because we are actually not that different, we're taught we're so different. Men and women are actually very similar. We actually have equal parts. We have masculine and feminine in our body, in our makeup, right? But we've had the toxic power over, where our men, one of the roles of the divine masculine is to protect us, right? In our, our fathers, our grandfathers, our partners, that's the role that the men had brought, right? And because we're smaller often in stature and size, that men often in general are larger, the way to control is power over and squash. And unfortunately, women, the divine feminine was seen as a threat. We know this back to burning the witches, what we don't understand, we fear. And what a lot of the beauty that women bring is the intuition, is that soft, strong, women are not weak. Women are strong, right? But we're taught, even there's a phrase we say, I probably can't say it on here because it's a bad word, but
whatever. I say bad words all the time on this podcast.
Okay, well, and so even how, we taught, there's a movie called The Masks We Live In that I highly recommend that we watch, and it's by Jennifer Sebum Newson, Gavin Newson's wife, and she's done a couple of great films, and she talks about how in America the toxic way that we raise our men, and some of it comes from our words, which is something that I'll share in 1 second, that I was talking about, even the coaches teaching our young men, this is where the toxic masculine comes in. It's don't be a pussy. Okay, well, first off, pussies are strong. That shit is
Mhm.
so wrong. Can we talk about that? Like, I think don't be a scrotum would be a more appropriate terminology. Okay.
I think you're right.
The words are so important that we say. And so we're
Yeah.
taught pussies are weak, women are weak. That's the interpretation. You understand?
Yes.
This is the power
Yes.
over. And there's so many ways in which we have taught this toxic masculinity in our culture that leads to rape and violence. And there are stats that show this. And this is where we're seeing a change. And this is where the Me Too movement came in, that women are finally speaking up and telling their stories. We're finally hearing her story, which is so important,
Yes.
right?
It's vital, absolutely vital. So it's important for those stories to be out for other women. It's also really important for us to express them. So what would you say to a woman who had a story that was considering doing what you did, writing a chapter, or just writing her story down? What would you say to her relative to the healing that she can expect?
Yeah. I think, even a great first start, if you feel like, oh, I'm not an author, it's journaling. I've been a journaler for years. I don't know how many journals I have. I keep them on my nightstand, like, especially when you're when you're walking through something really challenging, because putting pen to paper, if you just start writing, your higher self starts working through you, and you can even get the answers. It's like a form of self-therapy. So even if you don't think you're going to tell it on a grand scale, and everyone has a story, like we all have ways that we can impact each other and help each other heal. And that, I think it's an African proverb, like, the purpose of life is to find your gift. Shoot. Purpose of life is to give it away. There's something about finding your gift and giving it away is like, that is the purpose of life. And so when we've gone through really challenging times, the goal is to help other people not go through the depths of darkness that we have, to give them shortcuts, right? And so when you can share how you did it, you could shave years of pain off somebody else's life. Ooh, how about that? Like, isn't that motivation to tell your story? That's the thing. Your story isn't about you. And that's
say that again with some depth.
Your story is not. I think that people
true.
We get so in our way, and that's what I've really worked through the last several years in so much of the coaching and healing work I've done, is that it's not about you. That if you really came to serve, and I believe we are all here to serve humanity in one way or another.
I agree.
That coming to terms with, if you've learned something, it's almost your responsibility. It's almost your, in a really sacred, loving way. It's your responsibility, and that it should be your honor to share it with them. And so you got to not care what people think. You got to get past those gremlins. You got to, and I understand being a light being, how you can be super sensitive and effective. So you got to keep working your light, keep protecting yourself, keep doing all the right things, eating well, sleeping well, getting the therapies, taking the best possible care of yourself so that you can help others.
Yeah. I love that. Love it. Absolutely. And I agree with every word. I think if we are not caring for ourselves fully, then we just don't have it to give, and it can be different levels of it. Sometimes, as women that help everyone and support everyone, it's really tough sometimes to draw a line in the sand or say, no, I can't, or I want to think about it, whatever it is. So yeah, to operate from there, that here is my vessel, I'm going to make sure that I am whole and I feel that way. And then I have more to give. Yeah. Yes.
And sometimes no is more important than the yes. Like, really, like, don't say a yes until it's like a hell yeah. Like, until you get really lit up and you're really behind it. I'm actually working with my sweetheart on that now, because he's such a lover. He's such a caretaker, and he's so used to putting other people before him. He's such a light being, and for some, like, we know light beings, we know so much that we're here to serve, and we desire so much to help other people, but sometimes we do it at the cost of ourselves.
Yes,
and that's absolutely a feminine trait. Jay carries a lot of the divine feminine in him. and it's a feminine trait, and it's something that we need to check and shift and work, and remembering that we really can only serve at the highest level when we are serving and filling up our own cup.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so how about you tell us just before we wrap up, tell us one fun thing about you, something that you don't normally share.
Well, my fantasy job is to be a professional dancer. Like,
why is that a fantasy? That's awesome.
Well, so I told my sweetheart that it's the cutest. He believes in me, so, like anything I say. So I think this is coming to me later in life. I'm turning 50 in, I don't know, next year I'll be 50. And I'm thinking I'm going to be a professional dancer and model in my 50s because I've always wanted to do that. And he goes, oh yeah, I have no doubt.
There you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So will you send us videos and pictures when you get
Absolutely. There? Absolutely. Okay. I won't forget you. Don't worry. When you
reach the big time. That's awesome. Thanks, Lisa. So you will, you have a podcast. Tell us a tiny bit about the podcast because we didn't.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Know. Yeah, I'm launching the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle podcast August 23rd. I'm super excited. It's been a whole lifetime in the making. You know, everything is sacred, and you know, so it's about the way we take care of ourselves. It's what we were talking about. It's how we speak. It's the words we select. It's how we think. It's who we share our time with. It's what we allow in and on our body, from ingredients to people to food, and you know, like people who are turning the soil around to, you know, biodynamic farming. All of this is, I want to have a jingle like the Viva Loca. It's like the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle. You know, all of these components that it takes to live this really healthy, beautiful life so that you can shine through your skin on and off camera. A lot of things, like I'm busting myths, that there's so many urban myths that, you know, people fall into, as well as like not really realizing the depths of what is important about what we're doing and how that helps or hurts us. Yeah. A lot of fun people I'm bringing on. Yeah. I'm super excited to interview you too.
I'm really looking forward to it too. It's going to be a blast. Yeah. And it's timely. I think it's really timely.
It really is.
Let's take a look at the whole picture.
Yeah, for sure. Now's the time. Yeah. I love it too. Thank you. What so fun to share with you.
Oh, it was fun. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I want to remind everybody that Lisa's chapter is amazing. Please get the book and go and check it out. We are, for the next few days, not all of you will get this in this time, but those of you that are watching live, in the next couple of days, we are going to be tallying up the receipts for purchases of the book, so that we can offer prizes. A lot of the authors have offered prizes to be able to give people in a draw who send me, Dianna at cravemorelife.com, send me your receipts, and I'll put you in the draw that will happen Friday at noon. So that's Friday, August the 6th. At noon. Yes. Yeah. Think about it, trying to visualize my calendar. And as Lisa said, half of the proceeds, so 25% of the proceeds between, actually it started Monday night to the end of Thursday, will be given to two organizations, the two charities, and Lisa did speak to that. So very, very thrilled, and really happy that we're doing all that. And thank you, my dear. I appreciate it. I'm really glad that you were here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You did a great job. And people that are listening, I just want to remind you that just by showing up today, you are kicking your own ass. So thank you so much. And we will see you next time.
Ciao.
If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.